5. Essential exercises to quickly build stronger glutes. After 60, our senior health. For many, the daily ritual of waking up, slipping into comfortable shoes, and embarking on a familiar walk is a cornerstone of healthy aging, a practice long lauded by medical professionals, including myself, as the quintessential form of exercise for older adults. Walking, with its low-impact nature, widespread accessibility, and undeniable benefits for cardiovascular health, has earned its esteemed reputation. However, as our understanding of the intricate physiology of aging deepens, particularly concerning the insidious processes of muscle atrophy and the crucial need for fall prevention, a more nuanced perspective emerges. It has become increasingly evident that while walking is undoubtedly a necessary component of an active lifestyle, it is, in its purest form, fundamentally insufficient for the preservation of true independence in later years. There exists a discernible physiological chasm, a gap between the simple act of locomotion and the robust maintenance of bodily strength. And it is within this widening void that the insidious onset of frailty often takes root, subtly eroding the very foundations of autonomy. One of the most pervasive and concerning misconceptions that I frequently encounter in my clinical practice is the deeply ingrained belief that engaging in walking alone is an adequate strategy for maintaining muscle mass, especially as we age. This notion, unfortunately, is anatomically and physiologically inaccurate. Through the application of electromyography, EMG studies, which meticulously measure the electrical activity generated by our muscles, we have uncovered startling insights into the functional limitations of even our most powerful musculature. Consider, for instance, the gluteus maximus, the largest and arguably one of the most critical muscles in the human body. During a typical unassisted walk on a flat, predictable surface, this formidable muscle is activated to a surprisingly low percentage of its maximum capacity, often registering at approximately 32%. This statistic carries profound implications. For the vast majority of our daily ambulatory activities, nearly two-thirds of our primary postural stabilizers and the powerful engine for hip extension remain largely dormant, underutilized, and consequently underdeveloped. Over the passage of time, this chronic under-recruitment can lead to a phenomenon we often colloquially refer to as gluteal amnesia. Essentially, the neural pathways responsible for fully engaging these crucial muscles become neglected, and the brain, in a sense, begins to forget how to effectively recruit them, as they are seldom challenged beyond the minimal threshold required for a basic gait. The ensuing consequence is not merely a gradual decline in strength, but a more insidious loss of the essential protective scaffolding that is vital for maintaining pelvic alignment, ensuring a stable gait, and ultimately, securing our balance against the myriad unpredictable forces we encounter in our environment. This functional deficit can manifest in perplexing ways, even for individuals who diligently adhere to their walking routines. The tangible repercussions of this muscle dormancy are a constant and often perplexing sight in the clinical setting. It is not uncommon to encounter patients who, despite diligently walking 3 miles or more each day, express bewilderment when they find themselves struggling to stand up from a low-seated sofa, or when they experience a disconcerting sense of unsteadiness or wobble while navigating uneven terrain, such as a grassy lawn. This apparent paradox arises because walking, by its very nature, is a linear and highly repetitive motion. While it certainly engages certain muscle groups, it generally does not adequately challenge the intricate systems responsible for dynamic stability, nor does it sufficiently stimulate the lateral musculature crucial for preventing sideways instability. As we advance in age, if we do not proactively and intentionally introduce movements that specifically target and stimulate these fast-twitch muscle fibers, the ones responsible for explosive power and rapid responses, they will inevitably atrophy at a rate significantly greater than their slower twitch counterparts. Fortunately, there exists a well-defined protocol of specific movements that are designed to directly address these neglected areas, effectively reversing the process of atrophy and restoring the essential structural integrity of the lower body. One particular movement, which we will delve into in greater detail shortly, often proves to be the pivotal factor in determining whether an individual can maintain their independence and continue to live alone safely and confidently throughout their 80s and beyond. Before we delve into the intricate biomechanics of these transformative movements, I would be deeply appreciative if you would take a brief moment to connect with our growing community. Your participation is incredibly valuable and helps foster a supportive environment for everyone. Please consider leaving a comment below, sharing your name, your age, and your location. I make it a personal endeavor to read through each and every comment because it is profoundly encouraging and inspiring to witness a global collective of older adults actively and proactively engaging with their health and well-being. Your stories and your commitment serve as a powerful testament to the potential for vibrant aging. Furthermore, if you find the information presented here to be helpful, insightful, or even just a little bit useful, please take a moment to express your appreciation by liking this video. Your likes signal to the platform that this content is valuable and helps it reach more people who could benefit. Equally important is subscribing to the channel. By subscribing, you ensure that you will be notified of future uploads, allowing us to continue this vital conversation and build upon the knowledge we are sharing. This is how we collectively empower ourselves and others to navigate the journey of aging with greater strength, resilience, and confidence. Let us begin by addressing the significant deficit in our functional capacity with a movement that directly challenges the vertical loading of the hip joint, a fundamental aspect of weight-bearing and locomotion. This essential movement is the step-up. While it might initially appear to be a deceptively simple action, essentially mimicking the familiar act of climbing a single stair, its clinical significance is profound. In a medical and functional assessment context, the ability to perform a controlled, deliberate step-up serves as a potent biomarker for longevity and a critical indicator of an individual's fall risk. During a typical walk, the momentum generated by your stride naturally assists in propelling you forward. However, when you execute a step-up, you are compelled to actively generate force against the constant pull of gravity using the strength of a single leg. This action profoundly engages the stabilizing musculature around both the hip and knee joints in a manner that walking by itself can never fully achieve. Indeed, a seminal study conducted at the University of Florida highlighted the remarkable efficacy of this movement, demonstrating that consistent practice of the step-up improved single-leg strength by over 25% in older adult participants within a relatively short time frame. The paramount consideration here is not necessarily the height of the platform or step, but rather the meticulous control with which the movement is executed. What we aim to observe and cultivate is the nervous system effectively relearning and reestablishing its capacity to stabilize the entire body weight upon a single limb. When you place your foot upon a low platform, be it a sturdy step or even a thick book, and then actively press through your heel to lift your body, you are transmitting a high-magnitude signal to both your bones and your muscles. This signal serves as a potent demand for adaptation and strengthening. In essence, you are communicating to your body that it must remain capable of generating significant vertical power, a crucial ability for navigating everyday life. This targeted stimulation not only bolsters bone density, particularly in the vulnerable femoral neck, a common site for fractures, but it also powerfully compels the gluteus maximus to engage fully, generating the necessary force for hip extension. If we neglect the development and maintenance of this vital vertical strength, we progressively lose the capacity to safely and confidently navigate essential everyday obstacles such as curbs, boarding buses, and ascending stairs, thereby inadvertently shrinking our world to exclusively flat and predictable surfaces. Once we have established a foundational understanding of the critical importance of vertical strength, particularly as cultivated through the step-up exercise, our attention must logically shift towards addressing issues of posture and the nuanced mechanics of hip extension. As we advance in age, our bodies often exhibit a tendency towards a subtle inward curvature. This manifests as a rolling forward of the shoulders and a persistent slight flexion of the hips, a postural shift largely attributable to the extensive periods many of us spend in sedentary positions. This prolonged sitting creates a state of mechanical tightening in the hip flexor muscles located at the front of the thighs. Through a physiological principle known as reciprocal inhibition, when these anterior muscles become excessively tight, they send biochemical signals to their opposing muscles, namely the glutes, prompting them to relax and remain in an elongated state. This interplay is profoundly detrimental to maintaining proper posture. It contributes significantly to what is sometimes described as the senior shuffle, a gait characterized by a shortened stride length. This occurs because the leg is unable to achieve its full range of extension backward behind the body, limiting forward propulsion. To effectively counteract this detrimental cycle, we strategically employ the glute kickback exercise. It is crucial to understand that this is not merely a simple leg lift, rather it functions as a potent neurological reset for the hip extension pattern. By standing tall with excellent posture and extending the leg directly backward, meticulously avoiding any arching of the lower spine, we deliberately force the gluteal muscles to contract forcefully against the inherent tightness in the hip flexors. This controlled engagement is instrumental in restoring the natural, unimpeded range of motion within the hip joint, thereby enabling a longer, more confident, and more powerful stride. Furthermore, this exercise prevents the lower back muscles from assuming an excessive burden in the act of walking. A common contributor to nonspecific lumbar pain experienced by many individuals over the age of 60. The intrinsic connection between gluteal weakness and the prevalence of lower back pain inevitably guides us towards exercises that engage the posterior chain. And in this context, the glute bridge emerges as a profoundly therapeutic movement, particularly for the aging spine. A significant proportion of my patients who suffer from chronic lower back pain do not necessarily have weak backs in isolation. Rather, their pain is often a consequence of dormant or underutilized gluteal muscles. When the glutes fail to adequately support the pelvis, the muscles of the lower back are forced into a compensatory role, working overtime to maintain upright posture and stability. The glute bridge exercise directly addresses and corrects this faulty firing order. By assuming a supine position on the floor or a firm mattress and subsequently lifting the hips off the ground, we effectively remove the variable of balance from the equation. This allows for an unimpeded and focused concentration on achieving a strong, deliberate muscular contraction of the glutes. The glute bridge is a safe, closed-chain exercise that not only decompresses the spine by promoting extension, but also powerfully strengthens the entire posterior chain, the group of muscles running along the back of the body. Clinical data consistently suggests that the introduction and regular practice of this movement leads to significant reductions in chronic back pain. This is achieved by teaching the body to initiate and control movement and stabilization primarily through the hips, rather than excessively leveraging the vertebrae of the spine. The essence of this exercise lies in re-educating the brain to recognize and utilize the hips as the primary engine of movement, thereby sparing the spine from unnecessary strain and the premature wear and tear that can lead to pain and dysfunction. However, our focus on improving forward and backward propulsion represents only one half of the comprehensive equation for maintaining functional independence and preventing falls. We must also diligently address the critical aspect of lateral stability, a function primarily governed by the gluteus medius and gluteus minimus muscles, which are situated on the sides of the hip. These are often referred to as the invisible muscles, yet they play an indispensable role in preventing us from succumbing to sideways falls. Statistically, lateral falls are often the most dangerous for older adults, carrying a significantly higher risk of hip fractures because the impact force is directly transmitted to the trochanter of the femur, a prominent bony projection on the upper thigh bone. The simple act of walking, while beneficial for overall health, does remarkably little to effectively strengthen these lateral stabilizing muscles. This is precisely why we introduce exercises such as seated band abductions. By sitting in a stable chair and actively pressing the knees outward against the resistance of a loop band, we are able to effectively isolate and challenge these crucial lateral stabilizers without the inherent risk of losing balance. This movement may appear small, even almost imperceptible in its execution, yet the strength developed in the hip abductors is consistently identified as the #1 predictor of successful fall recovery. When you trip or stumble, it is these muscles on the side of your hip that reflexively contract with remarkable speed and force to widen your stance, pull your leg out to the side, and catch your balance, preventing a fall. If these muscles have become weak from prolonged disuse, this vital reflex may be too slow or too weak to counteract the momentum of a fall. Strengthening them essentially widens your dynamic base of support, ensuring that even when you are momentarily on a single foot, your pelvis remains level and does not drop significantly to the unsupported side, a condition known as the Trendelenburg gait. This progressive approach, moving from the basic activation and vertical loading of the glutes to the crucial development of lateral stability, ultimately leads us to what is arguably the most complex, yet undeniably the most vital movement for preserving true functional independence: the modified split squat. In the broader fitness landscape, you might encounter this exercise referred to as a Bulgarian split squat, a name that can sound rather intimidating and suggest an advanced athletic endeavor. However, for the purposes of our discussion and for our target audience, we view it as a fundamentally supported single leg stance that progressively builds confidence and capacity. The underlying logic driving the efficacy of this movement is deeply rooted in the concept of asymmetry. It is a well-established fact that no two sides of our bodies are perfectly symmetrical. We all possess a dominant leg and, consequently, a weaker leg. Over the course of decades, this inherent imbalance tends to grow, often unnoticed. When we engage in everyday activities such as standing up from a chair or climbing stairs using both legs, our stronger leg instinctively compensates for the deficit of the weaker one, effectively masking the underlying imbalance. This compensatory pattern continues, often for years, until one day the stronger leg becomes injured, overly fatigued, or simply unable to continue shouldering the excessive load. And suddenly the individual is confronted with the stark reality that they can no longer adequately support their own body weight. The modified split squat exercise is ingeniously designed to strip away this compensatory mechanism. By placing one foot behind you on a stable elevated support, such as a low bench or sturdy chair, and then deliberately lowering your body weight onto the front leg, you are powerfully forcing that single limb to bear the entire load of both stability and strength. This exercise is exceptional at challenging proprioception, your body's innate ability to sense its position and movement in space, a faculty that, unfortunately, tends to decline with age. The modified split squat effectively integrates and reinforces all the principles we have discussed: the vertical drive and power generation characteristic of the step-up, the essential hip extension prowess cultivated by the glute kickback, and the crucial lateral stability developed through abduction exercises. In essence, it acts as a powerful mechanism for bulletproofing the knees and hips by ensuring that each leg is independently capable of robustly supporting your entire body weight. When I observe a patient in their 70s or 80s master this movement, even if their range of motion is initially limited, I know with a high degree of confidence that their risk of experiencing a debilitating and life-altering fall has decreased precipitously. They are not merely building muscle in isolation, they are simultaneously cultivating a profound sense of neurological trust and confidence in the inherent capabilities of their own limbs, a crucial element for sustained independence. Ultimately, the overarching goal in introducing these 5 fundamental movements, the step-up, glute kickback, glute bridge, seated band abduction, and the modified split squat, is not to transform you into a competitive bodybuilder or an elite athlete. Rather, the profound objective is to fundamentally shift your perspective and redefine your understanding of what constitutes meaningful exercise, particularly after the age of 60. We must actively move away from the prevailing notion that exercise is solely about burning calories or achieving peak cardiovascular output. At this vital stage of life, exercise transcends mere fitness. It becomes a prescription for autonomy. It is about intentionally preserving and enhancing the ability to perform activities of daily living, ADLs, independently, without the need for assistance. When we rely exclusively on activities like walking, we are indeed actively managing our heart health, which is undeniably vital, but we are neglecting a critical dimension of our well-being: our structural and functional health, the very foundation upon which our independence is built. The human body possesses an extraordinary capacity for adaptation and regeneration, and this remarkable resilience persists regardless of chronological age. It was once a widely held belief within the medical community that age-related muscle loss was an inevitable and irreversible process. However, contemporary scientific understanding, bolstered by advancements in the study of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections, and our growing appreciation for the inherent responsiveness of skeletal muscle tissue, has dramatically altered this perspective. We now understand that it is entirely possible to regain significant strength, improve coordination, and enhance functional capacity well into one's 80s and even 90s. However, achieving these outcomes is not a matter of chance. It demands specificity. It requires engaging in movements and activities that might initially feel slightly challenging, that gently push the boundaries of your comfort zone, and that deliberately challenge your balance within a controlled, safe environment. This deliberate practice ensures that you are adequately prepared to navigate the inherent unpredictability and potential hazards of the uncontrolled environment of the real world. Consistency, therefore, emerges as the most critical currency in this endeavor. You do not necessarily need high-intensity workouts to achieve these significant gains. What you truly require is high frequency of practice and a steadfast commitment to correct form. By thoughtfully integrating these targeted, functional movements into your regular routine, you are embarking on a journey that transcends mere exercise. You are actively and intentionally engineering a future where you remain the captain and pilot of your own life, moving through the world with unwavering confidence, steadfast stability, and enduring strength.